Today's #1 Realtor cookies are about to hit the market. Hi, I'm Leslie with Leslie's Cookies and Treats, and if you love decorating sugar cookies or you want to learn how, you're in the right place. Let's decorate together. So plaques are nice, but cookies are better. Today we're making #1 Realtor cookies with some leftover #1 cookies I had after doing a first birthday set. So I'm going to take this cookie and I'm going to start out by using a 15-second royal icing and just painting some icing on the background of the cookie. This is where the door and the window is going to go. And then I'll grab my gray icing again, and I'm just going to outline the cookie here. I'm going to actually outline it twice, so you want to touch down, lift up your piping bag, and watch where your line of icing is falling, touching down at each corner, staying as close to the edge as you can. And I'm not going to do the very top here, but I'm going to stop here, and then I'm going to actually over pipe this because I want to create a nice tall border so that this border is seen after I flood the cookie with white royal icing. So I'm just going to go right over the top. I'm going to go slow. I'm watching where my line of icing is falling and touching down at each corner. I'll stop squeezing and lay my line down as I get to the end. And then I'm also going to do the same thing and just outline the door and the window. And you can go over the edges for the door and the window twice. It might be a good idea. I didn't do that here. And then I set this cookie aside to dry for a few minutes while I outlined other cookies. Now I'm coming back in with my white royal icing. It's also in a 15-second consistency, and I just want to go ahead and put a border up here at the top, and then I'll continue flooding this in. I want to be very careful not to go over the top of these gray lines, so I'm not going to go all the way to the edge. Instead, I'll use a scribe or a toothpick to move the icing around so that I don't go over the top of all of these little gray lines we already piped. So using a circular motion, I'm just going to take my scribe and carefully move the icing out to the edge and over to the window and then around the door until the cookie is flooded and the icing is nice and smooth. And once everything is nice and smooth, go ahead and set this cookie aside to dry. I let mine dry for about 15 to 20 minutes. Now I'm coming back in with my black royal icing. It's also in about a 15-second consistency, and I'm just going to outline a roof at the top of my #1. And then I'll flood that in. And I'm going to use my scribe to make sure that this icing is all the way down to the cookie and that there aren't any air bubbles, because skinny areas like this have a tendency to crater and I don't want that to happen. And then I'll grab my gray icing again, and I'm just going to put a line going across the window and then also from the top down to the bottom. So you just want to squeeze out a little bit of icing, touch down, and then squeeze a line and stop squeezing and lay your line down. You just barely need to squeeze the icing out. And then we also want to put a little dot for the door. And now for the fun part, we're going to add a little floral swag to the top of the door. I have about a 25-second detail consistency icing here, or a piping icing. And I'm just going to make dots in random places. I have 3 different colors of green that I'm going to be using. And then I'll take my scribe, or you can use a toothpick. And I'm just going to drag these little dots out to points in various directions. And because my icing's a little bit thicker, the line that I drag with my scribe might show, might not disappear, and that's perfectly okay with me because it adds some dimension to these leaves. Now I've got a medium green icing. I'm going to do the same thing here, and once I'm done with that, I will come back in and do the same thing with a dark green icing. And then we'll let those leaves dry for a little bit while we move up here to the window, and I'm going to give it some nice black shutters. Kind of bring in the black from the roof a little bit and add some more interesting elements to this cookie. So I'm just going to pipe a line on both sides and then use my scribe to shape it and kind of sharpen the corners a little bit of these shutters. And then we move back down to the green leaves, and I'm just going to put some little pink dots for flowers in random places in my floral swag. And all that's left now is writing #1 Realtor at the bottom, and I'm going to use my projector to do this. I used Canva for the font and to figure out how I wanted the #1 Realtor to look, and I'm just projecting that down onto my cookie. If you don't have a projector, you could also use the tissue paper method, or you could just eyeball it. I wanted to get my letters perfectly spaced, so I'm going to use my projector. And my icing here is a little bit thin for writing. It's more of a 15-second consistency, so I'm going to do some of the lines and let them set up a little bit before I come back in and do any other lines. And I didn't get my A very straight here, so I used my scribe to fix it before continuing on with the rest of the letters. And I'm just going slowly. I'm following the line on the projector of where I want my icing to fall. I'm watching the line of icing that I'm dropping down. My piping bag is really close to the cookie. I'm not lifting it very far away. And because my icing is more of a 15-second consistency, I'm also trying not to overlap any of the letters. So for the O, I did part of it and then went back and finished the rest. And I'm doing the same thing for the E. I did the little line and I'm going back and doing the rest of it around the E. And anything that you need to settle down or move over, you can just use your scribe or even a dampened paintbrush to do that. And now all I have left to do is the rest of the R and the number sign. So if I had used a thicker 20 to 25 second consistency, I wouldn't have had to wait for any parts to set up. I could have just written my word just like as if I was writing cursive or on a piece of paper. And you can even hold your piping bag that way if it's more comfortable for you when you're writing. And then I decided to add a little window ledge here, and then this cookie is done. I think my realtor is going to be very happy with these. It was a great way to use up my extra number 1 cookies. What else could you put on a number 1 shaped cookie? Leave me a note in the comments and let me know. And if you enjoyed this tutorial, please like and subscribe and you'll be number 1 to me.